A lot of my work for the last few years has been around our relationship with money and creating a relationship with money that is based in love and generosity and abundance. And for those of you who are familiar with it, I think we've all found that approaching money this way, money that so sits at the heart of our economy and our public and private life, has been a huge relief. To be able to have a relationship with money that is based on principles of life, that affirm life, that make life feel right inside ourselves. And as I look at the events that are unfolding and have been unfolding really for a long time, but very much present in everyday's world over the last year and a half, I can't help seeing how much money is involved in this situation. And it's a huge reminder to all of us that money, throughout at least our written history pretty much, has been used for many purposes, and many of them have not been good. Money is the tool frequently for abuse of power and for manipulation and for greed and stealing and all kinds of things that every single one of us as a human being knows is not really the way to behave towards each other. And at the same time, my experience with money has been of it being such a beautiful energy. Once I started to explore this. Now, we're not talking about money today, but in a way money sits beneath the whole conversation because it drives so many of the decisions that are made in public life. And so we can't avoid it. And it's because of that deep exploration of money and inquiry into it and shifting of my relationship and working with many other people, shifting their relationship with it too, that it becomes such a stark contrast to see what people do with money, when I know in my heart that if we have an understanding of what it is, we couldn't do those things. We couldn't use money to hurt people or to build something for ourselves that keeps people out. We just couldn't do things that are really selfish if we understand what money really is. Okay, so if you want to learn more about that and you're not familiar with it, I'm not going to explain it now. The most of it is written in a book that's called Love Money, Money Loves You, which I wrote some years ago. That's the place to explore this very beautiful and redeeming message about money, I would say. It actually makes money good, which is a very wonderful thing. But what I'd like to do now is just talk a little bit about some of the very confronting, but I think reasonably solid facts, things that we know near enough. As you're all aware, there are many things that we're all discussing whether we know or not at the moment, and people can't agree on them. There are some things that to me are not really in dispute. We can dispute just about everything or discuss it or argue about it, and I know that a lot of people are very, very tired of those arguments, and I totally get it, and I don't think that that's a useful place for us to hang out. And that's one of the reasons, one of the things that really drove me just about 2 or 3 weeks ago to write a long poem that I shared on my blog. And I said, enough is enough. It was such a heartfelt moment for me. It's like, it doesn't matter how much I try to understand. It doesn't matter how much I research. And it doesn't matter how much I listen to people on any side of what's going on, whether it's about COVID or whether it's about climate or whether it's about any of the other big topics. It's just like, enough is enough. This is not going to work. What I could see is that the more I understand, the more I know, it's useful, but it's not creating a solution. And it's the equivalent for me to going to a doctor with a serious condition, apparently, and you have the tests done, so you get a diagnosis. You have a treatment plan made by your doctor, and you have tests and measures that can measure your progress. But the underlying thing that you want, the only thing you really want in that moment, is to be healthy. And the diagnosis and the treatment plan and the tests may or may not produce that result. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they produce half health. You're like, I'm better, but I don't feel great. And so there's this longing for something more than that. And I feel that many of us can resonate with that there's some part of life, there's something about life that is missing, however much we find out the facts. Okay? That doesn't make the facts unimportant. I think they are centrally important, and I think it's a natural and dignified thing for human beings to do, to search for and research the truth. What's actually happening here? What can I say that is accurate and honest and not emotionally driven? That to me is an important thing that we do. But I am now absolutely clear that it's not enough. It has never been enough, and it's never going to be enough to do that. We will not solve problems at that level. And so as a result of writing that poem, which was pretty much a stream of consciousness, I found myself writing something that I know already, but it was as if I didn't know it at this level. And I needed to understand it when we're looking at global situations, not just personal situations or things that affect my clients or my local community, so to speak. And that was that if you want to change something, it starts from a new story. It doesn't start from what's wrong with me. It starts from what would I love to be. It doesn't start from, oh my goodness, I've got this terrible disease, which has got a name to it. It actually starts from, I feel horrible and I want to feel healthy. I want to feel well. I want my life to feel good. And so we are drawn towards that feeling of wanting my life to feel good. And that is more powerful than any amount of what's wrong with you. Okay? And I think that this stands across the board for all human beings, because there are we're all responding to the information that we're surrounded by and the information that we choose to seek out. And we're all probably struggling with, how do I respond to this? And how do I respond to it with wisdom, which is always my question, and with consciousness? How do I respond in a way that makes a contribution that's useful, rather than just a reaction that pulls me down and pulls other people down with it? And I think it takes a lot of courage from each one of us to ask these questions, especially when there's a very strong narrative. Because whatever you believe, whatever your personal opinion is, it requires you to think for yourself and form your own opinion, not just take somebody else's and borrow it. It actually requires us to be conscious as individuals if we start to talk about wisdom. Doesn't matter what your personal beliefs are. I hope that every single one of us chooses our own beliefs and our own opinions by questioning and researching and doing whatever is the right thing to do. It doesn't matter what you land with, but it's really hard to feel safe in that kind of environment, especially when decisions are being made based on this very disagreeing science. Like, how can you make wise decisions based on that? And so I started to search for better answers, better solutions. The thing that I really saw, a lot of science, and there is disagreement. And I think often there's one bit of science here and there's another bit of science here, and they're just kind of missing each other. They don't really disagree because they don't clash. They just kind of walk past each other in the night. They're not talking about the same thing, so there's nothing to agree or disagree. But it comes out feeling like disagreement. I saw that there is a lot of controversy and there's a lot of suppression of information in different directions. And I saw that there is, as a result, a lot of stalled action or ineffective action. So some very technological solutions that sound to me extremely dangerous, and a lot of fear. And so what happens is we come to the same conversation over and over again, is that we don't have the consciousness to do the right things. We're not responding with wisdom, because wisdom would say, go and do the things you need to do, put in place the incentives, solve the problems that need to be solved, and do the right thing. And yet we're not doing it. Now, I think we can all understand that. How many times have you for example, known that you needed to clean up your diet, or you needed to exercise more, or you needed to change your makeup or something because you discovered that your makeup has toxins in it, but you like your makeup and you're used to the food and it's easier to buy what you're used to buying, and you'd love to go to the gym, but you just can't quite find time for it. It's the same consciousness. So I don't think any of us can afford to throw stones here. I think we really need to take responsibility individually within our own consciousness as to how much wisdom can we bring together to be able to make different decisions that work better. But anyway, what I found is because of that lack of consciousness, we live in a over-toxic environment that is causing damage to humans and nature. We know that. And so wherever I looked, I could apply the same things to social disintegration, economic collapse, all the big topics. What I came to is that whatever it is, we cannot rely on science to give us the solutions, to show us what to do. We can use it as a point to show us where we are to some extent. It gives us some measures, some perspective into where we are. So fundamentally, a thing that I've known for a long time and I've been reflecting on for a long time is that the more energy and attention you give to a topic, the more it grows. Now, I have given a lot of energy to these topics over the last year and a half, and I knew I was doing that because one of the things I've learned when I was younger is that if I'm not grounded, if I just go into, oh, I would love the world to be everybody thriving and living a beautiful life and the golden age is coming, it doesn't come for me. I've tried, seriously, I've tried to escape from the facts and just go into a vision of the future. And I couldn't manifest it. I got so frustrated in the end and so unhappy because I couldn't create what I wanted to create. And for me, it was through becoming grounded and facing the current, facing the present, facing my fears, facing my own responses to things was what enabled me to start to drop down and be able to engage with consciousness and wisdom and vision, and to start talking about a new story in a way where I know that I can connect with it and where I know that it becomes not only possible to create it, but inevitable. It becomes a must. So I reached a point where I said, as I've already said, enough is enough. We must create a new story. And why do I say that? Because I've spent 30 years in healing, and every single person who decides to change their life, who decides that they don't want to be sick anymore, they don't want to have a crappy relationship anymore, they don't want to be broke anymore, or whatever it is, the ones who heal most quickly, who change most quickly, are the ones who say, that's enough, I want something better. I want to be healthy. I want to experience love in my relationship. I want to experience abundance and generosity and prosperity. So they say enough is enough, and they connect with a vision that inspires them, that uplifts them, and that pulls them towards it. So we need to understand this thing about energy. If you pay attention to what you don't want, you get more of it. If you pay attention to what you do want, you get more of it. That's a principle of energy. You're giving your energy, you're growing the energy of that thing, essentially, of whatever you pay attention to. So please think about that and really be sincere in what you pay attention to. And remember that if you're thinking about one thing, but underneath you're feeling really horrible. So if you're thinking about, oh, I'd really like to be healthy, but I'm really, really afraid of being sick, probably the most of your attention is going to being sick, honestly. Okay, so this is something we need to learn. We all need to get better at it all the time. Takes lots of practice, but it's a very simple principle that every single one of us can get better at from wherever we are right now. Okay, so that's the underlying principle here. The way we create a new story, essentially, and bring it into being is, first of all, we conceive it. It's just literally, I want that for myself, and most likely, and especially if you're here, I want that for us. There are certain things that I think as human beings we can probably agree on. We know that we can change these things. So we say enough is enough. We want to have a new story. I want to be healthy. I want to experience love. I want a world in which it is possible for people to thrive. And it's not just a few people thriving at the expense of the rest. We have designed it so that all of us can thrive. We may not succeed all the time, but that is what we intend as a society. To me, that is a decent, civilized society based in love and wisdom, and I believe that we can do that. So there are many areas around the new story, and these are where we, each of us, can bring our own resources and bring our own capabilities and our own heart and soul to it to create that together.